Services Facebook, WhatsApp and Instagram have been hit by an outage lasting more than an hour.
It actually feels like once Facebook is down, the whole world is shut down for communication. But people tend to forget that you can actually use text messages and regular phone call to reach out to your loved ones and families. So Facebook is down. It's not the end of the world. I don't think it's going to be that bad. It is what it is. But Facebook will be coming back on. Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram.
Reality platform. And so, yes, all Facebook properties are affected.
So do we know what's happened?
Unfortunately, not yet. We can only go sort of by the evidence that we have to go on. Facebook hasn't confirmed anything yet other than to say that they're aware that some people are struggling to access their services, which obviously had everybody cry out, some people, it's all people. We can't access a thing. But they've not confirmed what exactly has caused this.
All three services are owned by the Facebook company and could not be accessed over the web or by smartphone apps. Nearly 80,000 reports for WhatsApp and more than 50,000 for Facebook, and data from the websites that suggests that the outage is affecting user accounts across the world. But what on earth is going on? We're now joined by My Broadband Editor-in-Large, Jan Vermeulen. Jan, thanks very much indeed for joining us and welcome to the program.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
All right, so I guess we now know that if you, on Facebook, you are linked to WhatsApp and you're linked to Instagram instantly.
Yes, I think if anybody didn't know that before today, they'll know now. That seems to be impacted here, and it's knocked all of their services offline, including something like this has happened before, back in 2019, which caused an outage of hours long. But based on the information we have, it looks like it's related to what we call the domain name system. Or perhaps what we call the border gateway protocol. Long story short, it's got to do with internet routing, how traffic on the internet ultimately gets to your servers. And so somewhere something has gone wrong on the Facebook network that is preventing us, the user, from actually reaching the servers on which Facebook is kept and WhatsApp is kept, for that matter.
So why would they link the three together? They bought them separately, and one would have thought, unless there's algorithms that are popping right through the three systems.
No. So in this case, they are housed separately, and they do kind of operate within their own, I guess, silos, though there is a level of data sharing between some Facebook services. So between Instagram and Facebook, there'll be some data sharing, and there'll be some sharing between WhatsApp and Facebook. So for example, you're able to connect your business's WhatsApp number to your Facebook page, right? But Facebook got in big trouble in the European Union for even a little bit of data sharing between WhatsApp and Facebook. So they're not allowed to do that. What's happening here is the actual network that underpins everything Facebook does has been knocked off the internet. And so even though these services are hosted separately, they're hosted in separate locations. So, for example, there will be servers, Facebook and WhatsApp servers.
Hold on, the same time.
It's different this time. I think that these documents, forget the actual whistleblower, the document's pretty devastating because precisely what she said. You either have to be a single source of truth these days, or you go for power. They went for power. David, you know we haven't even talked as much as we should about Apple opt-in, opt-out.
Yes.
For the club, I've owned this thing for for about 200 and maybe, almost 300 points.
Okay.
And I feel very uncertain. I feel that this time it's probably
you
true.
said this could be different.
This time's different.
What we point out is that over time, we have sat at this desk many mornings, certainly during the course of the show, and discussed the latest criticism of Facebook, latest concern, latest focus of its critics, and yet the stock has obviously done nothing but more or less go up over a longer period of time, hitting as high as over $1 trillion market cap, though retreating recently, in part because their business continues to grow at a rapid rate. So your point now is that perhaps that will stop, that perhaps the advertisers are thinking differently?
That and Apple. And
right,
the new
which
operating
is
system.
the iOS, which you have to opt in.
Right.
And by the way, that's not just an issue for Facebook. That's an issue for any number of the apps that we all deal with every day that collect your information and obviously try to use it to help their business and or a center of their business.
Right. Now, Apple has chosen to be a single source of truth, as Mark Benioff says. They've been willing to say that's clearly not this opt. They don't want us to be able to get stuff that we don't want. Will the documents be used against Facebook? I think that if you are a major consumer products goods company, there'll be someone in the room at the board who will say, you know what, this is different. Now, look, I use Instagram for our restaurants. It's terrific. The small business stuff is terrific. I've been a somewhat defender the whole way, saying that, you know what, I didn't think their business would be hurt. Now, the documents indicate if you made major changes, would it matter? Everything always matters to make major changes. But you'd have to choose truth. And I look at those documents, and I don't think they chose truth. I think they chose obfuscation, and clearly they chose daily average users. I mean, I go through this with Twitter, where I say, listen, would you please take down the horrendous things that are said that I can't have my children possibly look at? And they will not do, they'll say, yeah, we'll take some down. But the first, they use a lot of First Amendment protection, and, you have every right. That bullying is a sensitive topic. Sensitive meaning that they won't take things down even though you're being bullied. So I'm looking, all of social media, as Dave and I were saying beforehand, could be really upended by what Apple's doing. And that is more important in some ways than what the documents showed. But look, let's just admit, there were more people who read that series and watched 60 Minutes than there's been any time that Facebook has been on the firing line. And
actually, what a coincidence that Facebook goes down a day after the whistleblowers were on 60 Minutes, the show 60 Minutes. Facebook goes down after that. Will the truth ever be told? I don't know why.
Day in the markets on this Monday with the Dow now down more than 404. And Jared, I know you've been watching that's been coming out, particularly around this whistleblower.
Yes, and I'm going to add a third thing to that list, which is that Instagram and Facebook are suffering outages. As many as 20,000 people reported this on Down Detector. Anytime that happens, you'll see the stock take a small hit. But let's go to the Wi-Fi Interactive because this is a big one. Facebook down over 5% doesn't happen that often. It's the biggest hit this stock has taken since late October of last year. So almost the worst day in 1 year. And I think the woes for tech in general today, and especially the mega caps, as you noted, a lot of these other stocks in the NASDAQ 100 are red or dark red. That's something to it. But the whistleblower commentary, somebody who comes forward and names themselves as a whistleblower, they put a face to that. Suddenly, the story gets ratcheted up in the national conscious. And I think there is something to be said for that story leading to the negative price action, or at least contributing to part of it that we're seeing today. In general, we're seeing a bad day for tech. So let's check in on the semiconductor space, seeing a lot of weakness there in NVIDIA, one of the leaders in that space. That stock is down 5%, Applied Materials down over 3%. And seeing something similar in software. We're seeing Adobe down 4%, Atlassian over 3.5%, CrowdStrike's that cybersecurity firm down 5%. So I've been tracking the weakness in not only semiconductors, but also software over the last week or two. That's when they started rolling over, and that's just continuing. And it kind of feeds into the bond market here. I'm going to go over to the 10-year T-note yield and just get an update on what's happening today. We saw it up as many as 3 basis points earlier. It's up 1 basis point now, but that usually lights a fire under the value stocks, energy and financials, and the stocks that take a backseat are those growth stocks. So a couple more screens here. I do want to check out the banking sector. And this is the energy, so we'll get to banking in a minute. Exxon is up more than 1%. By the way, crude oil, I'm looking at it. It is up 3% to the highest level that we've seen since 2014. I'll be doing a deep dive on the energy market at 2:30 p.m. today. And as promised, I do want to check out the banking sector before we go. So that has slipped. A lot of these stocks slipped into the red.